I think it's important that we appreciate the value of life and the responsibility to celebrate it, its spirituality, our charge, our trust, a sacred duty to care for and tend for the world. When we let those objectives get lost from us, then we are failing in our responsibility. We're not behaving as religious people, and that is one of the great tragedies and atrocities of the contemporary experience.
The bottom line, the underlying thing that everybody wants in their lives, however cliched you might like to think of it, is that we all want love. Religion doesn't give us that. You know, he just wants us to live at peace and harmony with each other, but there's no condition. He's standing by, or he, you know, is around us. The Spirit is around us, but you know, what does he feel pain? I wonder if he feels saddened by the fact that we don't live to our full potential. I'm sure, because that's what he wants us to do. Maybe there is a sadness there, or an emptiness that he feels. The Dalai Lama, he's totally the most humble, most beautiful man that you would ever imagine. I mean, it's always the love that comes from him is just extraordinary. You know, whenever he's interviewed, or, you know, he just spreads love. How can any religion how can you sit there and possibly say the Dalai Lama is a product of Satan? How can anybody believe that? In your heart of hearts, how can you believe that a man like the Dalai Lama is related or being influenced by Satan? I mean, come on.
That's an extremely interesting question, the question of how do we actually verify the truths of a religion. And this, of course, is the great quest of epistemology, that science or that philosophy which looks in how we know things. What do we know?
Well, take the case, which is a very sensitive subject for many people. Why believe in this particular holy book that you have, these particular scriptures? This is your favourite old book, but I've got another old book, and why don't you believe in my old book? And it says all sorts of amazing things. I can read you all sorts of extraordinary miracles. Zarathustra came out of the ocean, the serpent god, and did fantastic things. Why don't you believe my fantastic stories? Well, of course they don't believe them for a minute. But they don't give any reasons to believe their own book that are any better than the reasons I give. I mean, I'm teasing, of course, but they get the point straight away. But it doesn't change their view. So if you ask people, why do you believe in God? They say, well, the Bible says so. And I say, so why do you believe the Bible? Because God wrote it. Well, wait a minute. That's just arguing circular.
The scriptures are not scientific books. We don't go looking to them for scientific explanations, but we do go to them for basic religious truth. But a decision for or against God is almost an act of faith, or is an act of faith, or an act of explicit non-faith. The people have to decide, they have to go beyond the evidence.
I think any kind of irrational belief is harmful. I think believing anything without good reason is not confined generally to one particular sphere, but people tend to generalize. If you don't understand the need for good grounds and for rational beliefs in one area, you will probably believe things for bad reasons in other areas, in politics, for example. The significant feature of the 17th century scientific revolution and Galileo's importance was he said that you should stop looking more and more closely into some text. You should look at the world. That's the point of the famous demonstration of dropping the balls off the Tower of Pisa. Aristotle said that they would fall at different speeds. The heavy one would fall faster. And it doesn't matter what Aristotle said. You can go out and have a look. Well, now that's convenient. It may or may not have happened, but it's a very useful way of summarizing the difference between religions and science.
Most religions have a set theories of ideas and dogmas. Science sets itself up to demolish every day various parts of its chosen formulae and discoveries and precepts, and therefore it is not constant.
There's no way to know whether we'll ever reach an end to understanding. It's presumably the universe is sufficiently complicated and our human minds are sufficiently limited that we won't be able to understand everything. In fact, that's what makes some problems interesting. They're at the forefront of our capacities to understand. We have certain limitations, just like dogs can't play chess. There's some things that beyond the intellectual capacity of other animals, and presumably there are things that are beyond human capacity to understand. That's probably the case, but of course, given that, we won't know what those things are. We'll just find some things we can't understand.
We have heard one common criticism of religion, that it relies on old books and fixed dogma. But is science really any different? Is it really free of dogma? Has it truly no superstitions? If science is not just another religion, then what makes it stand apart? After all, it uses old books too.
I think our faith in science is very much like our faith in religion today. You have this religion that says, stick to the parameters of this religion and, everybody just believes solely in that. Then you have modern medicine and the science of medicine, where it's just like you stick to that and you can't actually do anything else. Talk to a doctor and they'll say, what do you want to use homeopathics for? That doesn't work. It's like, why are people so close-minded? Why do we just look at one book or one type of medicine? Why don't we embrace other books or other types of medicine as well? Why are we so prejudiced and so into, channeling everything onto one thing?
I don't think science could ever overwhelm other aspects of culture like that, and I think it would be dangerous if it did. Science should be part of the general story rather than, if you like, an imposing grid.
The Catholic Church was the fount and origin of universities in the Middle Ages, so there's no necessary conflict between science and religion.
Well, science and religion grew up in the old days when nobody quite knew what the world was made of and what its point was. And so inevitably they got melded together as one kind of job lot. But I think they embody two different points of view. One involves faith. So it seems to me that the science and religion are moving away from each other so fast that the spectrum is like a stretched piece of elastic, and I suspect it's about to break.
Mm-hmm. I think that there is, in some scientists, a slightly paranoid reaction against religion and so on, and consequently science has been very limited. One of the great functions of religion has been to bring together communities, to give people a sense of meaning and a sense of belonging. And this is not something which is rational. It's not something which you can argue for or against. It's something which people feel in their heart.
Science should keep itself away from questions about God because they would cause it to interfere with its own methods of finding how nature works.
There's a very strong agenda within science to free itself from what it sees as the shackles of religion, and that this has resulted in a very unfortunate dichotomy or schism